The Netherlands has a very strong tradition on producing social housing for the low income levels, rental housing basically. And they can do it because they have a very strong control over land, and because they created housing associations.
Almost 80–90% social housing. For example, for certain parts of the north of Rotterdam, you also see it. So a lot of buildings are the same. But you also have neighborhoods that have a lot of housing that's owned by
are very good, better than France, better than Belgium. Only Germany has also good house, but Netherlands, the people from Belgium, France and everything, they come to Holland, they say you have perfect houses.
The best housing policy is to have a good land policy. Urban governance for me is about controlling land, not so much controlling the building component. Those stakeholders come to the table because they are after a profit related to building, infrastructure, housing, commercial area, and not so much because they are speculating with land, which is a big difference with developing countries, where developers, most of their profit comes from land and not from building. You have to produce city.
Then we might ask, why is urban governance so important? Well, it provides people some of their basic assets. Though primarily housing is a physical asset, as it enables access to a neighborhood and sheltering, for example, it is a necessary condition on the providing of several immaterial assets. Assets are not just goods, but human, social and political conditions. Roads, streets and buildings are just material assets, but there are others such as education, security, networks, friendly neighborhoods and so on. They are interconnected, and often one enables the other. Having adequate material conditions influences on the providing of good education, for example, and vice versa. It is necessary to take a closer look on inequality to understand the constitution processes of urban space. Inequality is the structure of social difference that maintains segregation by keeping poorer classes poor. The strategy lies on the sharing of assets. As assets are human, social and political conditions a lot more than simply goods. They provide social inclusion and representativeness. Therefore, the less assets, the less social and political voice a community holds. The participation in decision-making processes is, in many respects, conditioned to asset situation. As adequate conditions of social inclusion and living, assets also determine the capacity of responding to adversity of a community. The less assets, the more impact will the group suffer under unfortunate events. This is called sensitivity. On the other hand, the less assets, the less recover capacity. This is called resilience and is defined by the answering efficiency of the group. If assets are lower than adequate standards, sensitivity starts to rise and resilience to decrease. The vulnerability of the group grows higher. A possible strategy for overcoming the lack of assets is self-organization. As in developing countries, often the poorer classes can count on governmental initiative. Due to their lack of representativeness, organizing themselves seems the most effective answer. The lack of political voice is both cause and consequence of their vulnerability, within the lack of assets in a feedback scheme. In Brazil, in such contexts, community associations arose.
Dentro do campo profissional da arquitetura e do urbanismo, surgiu um movimento de aproximação dos arquitetos, dos profissionais, com os movimentos populares. Dessa aproximação surgiram várias experiências de assessoria técnica feita por grupos de arquitetos aos movimentos populares.
Os movimentos, a ideia é dessa relação autônoma com o processo de produção. Né? Dá o dinheiro que a gente resolve.
Que não era o mutirão simplesmente, tinha que ser autogestão.
A gestão do recurso, a gestão da elaboração do projeto, a gestão da obra, a administração da obra, né? Isso faz uma bruta diferença.
While Brazil has a more established practice in self-organization by the people in many effective ways, in the Netherlands, the government holds control over the practical means, though decision-making is usually participatory. In an overview of Western recent history, considering that the rise of social movements in the last decades made civil society more coherently organized and brought up new means of gathering for common purposes, increasing and broadening cooperative work, this should be used on society's behalf in social policies by governances, which is a lesson the Netherlands could take from Brazil. Also, as according to Recady, government may not be oftenly the most effective agent in social acting. It shall be interesting to work through community subsidized in urban management, instead of great PPPs and in corporations' government partnerships. On the other hand, clearly Brazil should invest in empowering population's voice in decision-making processes, such as it happens in the Netherlands. A participatory culture and stronger representation in negotiation is a possible path to setting restraints to the current excessive force of the private initiative in local urban management.